The story you are about to hear is real, verified, and chilling in its implications. It begins in the early years of the 21st century, in a quiet and affluent suburb where neighbors trusted one another and children played freely in the streets. This is the story of Leslie Prier, a 54-year-old woman from Chevy Chase, Maryland, whose life ended violently on a day in May 2001, and whose disappearance would remain unsolved for over 2 decades. Welcome to Dark Psyche Case Files, where we explore the darkest corners of human behavior and follow the painstaking work of law enforcement to bring justice to victims and closure to their families. If you value investigative true crime storytelling, remember to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button to support the channel. Every subscription helps ensure more stories like Leslie Prier's are told responsibly, factually, and with respect for the victims. Leslie Prier was known for her reliability, her dedication to her family, and her careful routines. She worked in finance and lived in a community that valued order, calm, and a sense of safety. She was the kind of person who kept her word, who showed up on time, and who left nothing to chance. On May 2, 2001, she left her home and followed her usual daily routine, but she would never return. Her absence was noticed quickly. Family members, alarmed by her failure to communicate or return home, contacted authorities. Leslie's vehicle was eventually found abandoned in her neighborhood, but she was not inside. There were no witnesses to her disappearance, and no immediate clues as to what had happened. The scene provided little evidence beyond the unsettling fact that someone had taken Leslie Prier from a life defined by stability and routine. Law enforcement began an exhaustive investigation. They retraced Leslie's steps, interviewed colleagues, neighbors, and family members, and followed every lead available at the time. Yet despite the efforts of dedicated detectives, the case quickly became a cold case. For years, Leslie Prier's name appeared in missing person reports, her story a lingering mystery in the Chevy Chase community. Over the next 2 decades, investigators preserved evidence from the original crime scene, including DNA samples, fingerprints, and other forensic materials. The case was monitored periodically, but without new leads or technological advances, there was little progress. Leslie's family endured years of uncertainty, hopping against hope for answers that never came. During this time, the community's understanding of safety and trust was challenged. Residents realized that even in places considered secure, violence could strike unexpectedly. The disappearance of Leslie Prier became a reminder that crimes can happen anywhere, and that meticulous investigation is essential for uncovering the truth. Despite the lack of resolution, law enforcement remained committed to solving the case. Advances in forensic technology, particularly in genetic genealogy, offered new hope. Years after Leslie Prier's disappearance, authorities re-examined the preserved DNA evidence, looking for connections that were previously impossible to detect. This approach would eventually lead to breakthroughs that transformed the cold case into a solvable investigation. The story of Leslie Prier is not just about tragedy. It is also about patience, dedication, and the tireless pursuit of justice. It is a reminder that even when a case appears unsolvable, careful investigation, evolving technology, and persistence can eventually uncover the truth. And it is a story that underscores the profound impact one life can have on a community, and the lengths to which justice will go to honor that life. This is only the beginning of the story. The investigation, the breakthrough, and the ultimate resolution of the case would take decades to unfold. But the foundation of truth and perseverance was laid on that day in May 2001. As the investigation into Leslie Prier's disappearance unfolded, detectives faced the grim reality of a case without witnesses, without immediate leads, and without a clear motive. Chevy Chase, Maryland, was a suburb where safety had always been assumed. The streets were lined with trees, children walked to school without fear, and neighbors looked out for one another. Yet the disappearance of Leslie Prier shattered that sense of security and left a community grappling with unease. Law enforcement focused on piecing together Leslie's last known movements. Investigators interviewed her colleagues, friends, and neighbors, building a detailed timeline of her daily habits. Every phone call, every appointment, and every interaction was reviewed carefully. Nothing suggested she would leave on her own, and nothing indicated that she had planned to disappear. Her life, orderly and predictable, made the mystery all the more alarming. Despite the careful investigation, years passed without resolution. Leslie's family endured the painful uncertainty of a loved one missing, never knowing what had happened or if answers would ever come. Law enforcement continued to monitor the case, periodically reviewing evidence, but the lack of new leads made progress slow. The disappearance remained a cold case, one of many unsolved investigations in the region. Over time, technological advancements in forensic science offered new hope. DNA analysis had progressed dramatically since 2001, and investigators recognized that preserved evidence from the crime scene could now be analyzed in ways that were impossible at the time. This included the emerging field of genetic genealogy, which had begun to help solve cases that had remained stagnant for decades. In addition to technology, investigators revisited the suspect pool, examining individuals with prior criminal histories or violent tendencies who might have been in the area. While the case had initially lacked a suspect, law enforcement knew that meticulous analysis and cross-referencing of evidence could reveal patterns that had previously gone unnoticed. Every detail, no matter how small, was reviewed and reevaluated. As the years turned into decades, the Prier family maintained their hope. They cooperated fully with investigators, providing insight into Leslie's routines, character, and habits. This cooperation proved invaluable. The family's persistence, combined with the dedication of law enforcement, ensured that the case remained active, even when public attention waned. Then, in the early 2020s, the case took a dramatic turn. Advances in forensic genetic genealogy allowed authorities to re-examine DNA collected from the crime scene. By comparing the genetic material to publicly available genealogy databases, investigators were able to identify potential familial connections to a suspect. This breakthrough would eventually lead to a name: Eugene Teodor Gligor, a man whose DNA matched evidence from the crime scene. The discovery marked the beginning of the end of a cold case that had remained unsolved for over 23 years. It was a testament to the relentless commitment of detectives, the power of modern forensic science, and the patience required to solve crimes long after they occur. For the Prier family, it was a moment of cautious hope, a sign that answers, finally, might be within reach. The case of Leslie Prier, which had begun as a mysterious disappearance in May 2001, had now become a story of perseverance, innovation, and the tireless pursuit of justice. But even with a suspect identified, the path to resolution would require careful legal preparation, meticulous evidence gathering, and a courtroom process that upheld the principles of justice. This chapter of the story reminds us that in true crime, patience is as crucial as persistence. A case may grow cold, evidence may sit dormant for years, and answers may seem impossible. Yet the combination of family determination, investigative rigor, and scientific innovation can eventually bring clarity and accountability. With the identification of Eugene Teodor Gligor as a potential suspect, investigators entered a critical phase of the Leslie Prier case. After more than 2 decades, the possibility of bringing justice was no longer a distant hope. It was within reach. Law enforcement knew that DNA evidence alone, though powerful, would require careful corroboration, thorough investigation, and precise legal strategy to hold up in court. Detectives re-examined the original crime scene materials, reviewing the evidence collected in May 2001. Every detail, from fingerprints to DNA swabs, was carefully cataloged, tested, and matched to ensure the integrity of the case. Investigators also reviewed any prior associations, movements, and potential witnesses connected to Gligor. constructing a comprehensive profile of his activities around the time of Leslie's disappearance. The Prier family, who had endured more than 20 years of uncertainty, were involved closely with law enforcement. They provided personal insights into Leslie's habits, her daily routines, and her relationships. These details were critical in reconstructing the timeline of events leading to her disappearance. For detectives, this cooperation was invaluable. The family's intimate knowledge of Leslie's life offered context that could not be gleaned from evidence alone. Authorities also began to investigate Gligor's history, including prior criminal activities, employment records, and patterns of behavior. Law enforcement wanted to ensure that the connection between Gligor and Leslie was firmly established before pursuing formal charges. Each interview, each record search, and each cross-reference contributed to the growing body of evidence. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that forensic science had transformed the possibilities for cold cases. Genetic genealogy, which had been in its infancy when Leslie disappeared, now allowed investigators to trace family connections and link DNA evidence to specific individuals with remarkable accuracy. By combining this technology with meticulous detective work, law enforcement built a clear and convincing profile of the suspect. Public interest in the case grew as news of the breakthrough emerged. Residents of Chevy Chase and the wider community were reminded that even decades-old cases could be solved through patience, science, and diligence. Media coverage remained measured and factual, ensuring that the investigation could proceed without compromising legal procedures or violating the rights of those involved. By June 18, 2024, the investigation culminated in the arrest of Eugene Teodor Gligor. Authorities took him into custody in Washington, D.C., charging him with murder in connection with Leslie Prier's death. The arrest represented the closure of a long chapter in the cold case investigation. For law enforcement, it was a demonstration of perseverance and the power of combining traditional investigative work with modern forensic technology. The arrest, however, was only the beginning of the final stage of the case. Bringing Gligor to trial would require comprehensive preparation, careful presentation of evidence, and legal precision. Prosecutors and investigators worked closely to ensure that every piece of evidence, every witness statement, and every timeline detail was documented and ready for court. The goal was clear: secure justice for Leslie Prier while maintaining the highest standards of legal procedure. For the Prier family, the arrest was both a moment of relief and a reminder of the long journey ahead. Over 23 years had passed since Leslie's disappearance, yet the legal process would still take months. Each step, from pretrial hearings to courtroom presentations, was critical in ensuring that Gligor's responsibility would be established beyond doubt. Chapter 3 highlights a key lesson in true crime. Cases may remain dormant for decades, but diligence, modern technology, and collaboration between family and law enforcement can revive even the coldest of cases. Leslie Prier's story, once shrouded in uncertainty, was now moving steadily toward accountability and justice. The arrest of Eugene Teodor Gligor on June 18, 2024, marked the beginning of a pivotal chapter in the Leslie Prier case. For over 2 decades, the family had lived with uncertainty, and the community had struggled to reconcile the violent disappearance of a well-known and respected resident. With the arrest, the cold case transformed into a legal process that would eventually bring resolution. Authorities approached the next phase with meticulous care. While the identification of Gligor was the result of forensic genetic genealogy, investigators understood that the evidence needed to be presented clearly, coherently, and conclusively for the court to ensure a conviction. Every piece of physical evidence collected in May 2001 was re-examined, tested, and documented, from DNA samples to any physical trace left behind. Every step was documented to protect the integrity of the case. Prosecutors worked closely with investigators to organize the narrative of events that led to Leslie Prier's murder. They sought to create a clear timeline, beginning with her last known movements on the morning of May 2, 2001, and following the trail through her disappearance and eventual discovery of evidence linking Gligor to the crime. The legal team understood that presenting a case over 23 years old posed challenges. Memories had faded, witnesses had relocated, and original evidence had to be carefully preserved and verified. Yet the power of modern forensic technology, combined with diligent documentation, provided a foundation for a compelling case. The Prier family remained deeply involved. Over the years, they had maintained communication with law enforcement, offering insights into Leslie's daily routines, her social patterns, and the people she interacted with. During pretrial preparation, the family's testimony would prove invaluable in establishing Leslie's habits and reinforcing that her disappearance was completely out of character. This testimony would help the jury understand the human impact of the crime, not just the forensic details. In the months following the arrest, Gligor was held in custody while pretrial motions were addressed. Legal teams on both sides reviewed the evidence, scrutinized procedural details, and prepared arguments for the upcoming trial. Defense attorneys examined the DNA evidence, questioned the methods used to obtain genetic genealogy matches, and sought to challenge the credibility of certain witness statements. Prosecutors, in turn, strengthened every aspect of their case, ensuring that nothing was left unverified. Public attention to the case grew steadily. News outlets covered the arrest with measured reporting, emphasizing the scientific breakthrough and the perseverance of law enforcement. Community members who had lived with the mystery for decades were cautiously optimistic, knowing that the wheels of justice were finally turning. The Prier family, while anxious about the court proceedings, felt a sense of relief that the suspect had been identified and that the possibility of closure was real. As the trial date approached, prosecutors and detectives continued to refine their presentation. They organized evidence in a way that would clearly demonstrate Gligor's involvement, linking DNA evidence, timelines, witness testimony, and patterns of behavior. The combination of scientific proof and human testimony was intended to provide a comprehensive and compelling narrative that could not be easily refuted. The court proceedings began in early 2025. The atmosphere was formal but tense. Prosecutors presented the case methodically, emphasizing the sequence of events, the forensic breakthroughs, and the connections that linked Gligor to Leslie Prier's murder. They also highlighted the dedication of law enforcement, the careful preservation of evidence over 2 decades, and the role of the Prier family in supporting the investigation. Throughout this phase, the legal teams balanced the need for factual accuracy with the sensitivity of the subject matter. Leslie Prier's life and character were portrayed respectfully, ensuring that the documentary-style presentation for the public would remain professional and suitable for monetization. Graphic details were avoided, focusing instead on the process of investigation, the breakthrough in forensic science, and the pursuit of justice. By May 2025, plea negotiations culminated in a resolution. Gligor pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, acknowledging his responsibility for the death of Leslie Prier. This plea eliminated the need for a protracted trial and allowed the court to proceed directly to sentencing. The Prier family, after more than 2 decades of waiting, finally had confirmation that justice would be served. The stage was set for the sentencing hearing. Investigators, prosecutors, and the Prier family prepared for a formal conclusion to a case that had spanned more than 24 years. The final step would ensure accountability and provide a sense of closure for the family, while reinforcing the principles of law and justice for the broader community. On August 28, 2025, the courtroom in Montgomery County, Maryland, became the stage for the final act in the Leslie Prier case. Eugene Teodor Gligor was formally sentenced for the murder of Leslie Prier, bringing closure to a case that had remained unresolved for more than 24 years. The hearing was solemn and measured, reflecting the gravity of the crime and the decades of uncertainty endured by Leslie's family. The judge reviewed the facts of the case meticulously. The prosecution summarized the investigation, highlighting the tireless efforts of law enforcement to preserve and analyze evidence from May 2001 onward. They emphasized the breakthrough achieved through forensic genetic genealogy, which ultimately led to Gligor's identification and arrest. The combination of modern science, investigative diligence, and careful documentation had allowed justice to prevail despite the decades-long delay. The Prier family attended the sentencing, accompanied by legal representatives. Emotions ran deep as the narrative of the investigation, arrest, and guilty plea was recounted. While the pain of losing Leslie could not be erased, the sentencing represented a formal recognition of accountability and a step toward healing. Family members had endured years of uncertainty and grief, and the sentence offered a sense of closure that had long been out of reach. Gligor received a prison sentence of 30 years, with 22 years to serve and the remainder suspended with supervised probation. The sentence reflected both the seriousness of the crime and the length of time the case had remained unresolved. It was a reminder that even in cold cases, justice can be achieved when diligence, perseverance, and modern forensic techniques are applied. For law enforcement, the case of Leslie Prier became an exemplar of how decades-old crimes could be solved. Detectives and forensic experts highlighted the importance of preserving evidence, maintaining detailed records, and embracing emerging technologies such as genetic genealogy. The Leslie Prier case illustrated that time alone does not diminish the possibility of resolution. Rather, persistence and innovation are often the keys to justice. The community of Chevy Chase, long haunted by the mysterious disappearance of a respected resident, could finally reconcile with the truth. The resolution of the case reaffirmed public trust in law enforcement and underscored the importance of community vigilance, reporting suspicious activity, and cooperation with authorities. Residents recognized that crimes, even those that appear unsolvable, can be addressed when the right combination of science, law enforcement, and persistence is applied. Media coverage of the sentencing focused on the breakthrough and the long journey to accountability. Reports highlighted the patience of the Prier family, the meticulous work of investigators, and the significance of forensic advancements. Public attention was respectful and informative, emphasizing the broader lessons from the case rather than sensationalizing the tragedy. Reflecting on the entire course of events, from Leslie's disappearance in May 2001 to Gligor's sentencing in August 2025, several themes emerged. First, the enduring commitment of law enforcement is crucial in cold cases. Second, the perseverance and cooperation of victims' families play a vital role in guiding investigations and maintaining momentum. Third, advancements in technology, particularly in forensic science and genetic genealogy, can bridge gaps in evidence that were previously insurmountable. The Leslie Prier case also serves as a reminder of the human impact of violent crime. For more than 2 decades, her family lived with uncertainty, grief, and unanswered questions. The resolution of the case did not erase the trauma, but provided formal recognition of justice, allowing for the beginning of emotional closure. Leslie's life, her routines, and the abrupt disruption caused by her murder are memorialized not only in legal records, but in the narrative shared with the public through careful and respectful storytelling. For viewers of Dark Psyche Case Files, the Leslie Prier case demonstrates the intersection of patience, scientific advancement, and unwavering pursuit of justice. It illustrates that even after decades, truth can emerge, accountability can be enforced, and families can begin to heal. Cases like this underscore the importance of remaining vigilant, valuing forensic evidence, and appreciating the painstaking work of those committed to uncovering the truth. As this chapter concludes, it is clear that the Leslie Prier case is more than a story of tragedy. It is a testament to human resilience, investigative innovation, and the ultimate triumph of justice over time and uncertainty. For families, communities, and law enforcement, it is an enduring reminder that no case is ever truly forgotten, and that persistent pursuit of truth can bring resolution, even decades later. Remember to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button to support Dark Psyche Case Files. By doing so, you ensure that stories like Leslie Prier's, stories of perseverance, investigation, and justice, continue to reach viewers responsibly and safely, with respect for victims and their families. The resolution of the Leslie Prier case marked not only the conclusion of a tragic story, but also a profound reflection on time, perseverance, and the pursuit of justice. From the moment Leslie disappeared in May 2001 to the arrest of Eugene Teodor Gligor in June 2024, and ultimately his sentencing in August 2025, this case illustrated the power of patience, investigative diligence, and technological innovation. For law enforcement, the Leslie Prier case was a demonstration of both the challenges and possibilities inherent in cold cases. Over more than 2 decades, investigators faced numerous obstacles: fading memories, witnesses who had moved away, and evidence that had to be preserved for years before modern forensic technology could provide clarity. Yet the dedication of detectives, combined with the cooperation of the Prier family, kept the case active and ensured that no lead was ever truly forgotten. The Prier family, enduring more than 23 years of uncertainty, exemplified resilience in the face of unimaginable grief. They continued to provide information, support investigations, and advocate for answers, even when it seemed that the trail had gone cold. Their steadfastness became a guiding force for law enforcement and underscored the importance of family involvement in cold case investigations. Advances in forensic science, particularly genetic genealogy, played a critical role in finally identifying Gligor. DNA preserved from the original crime scene, when reanalyzed decades later, allowed authorities to make a connection that had been impossible at the time of Leslie's disappearance. This breakthrough highlights how science can bridge the gap between past uncertainty and present resolution, offering hope to families of victims whose cases have long remained unsolved. Beyond the identification and arrest of Gligor, the legal process itself demanded meticulous attention. Prosecutors carefully presented the timeline of events, linking Gligor to Leslie Prier's disappearance through DNA, witness testimony, and reconstructed movements. Every piece of evidence was scrutinized and verified to ensure the integrity of the case. The result was a plea of second-degree murder, allowing the court to establish accountability without a prolonged trial, and providing the Prier family with formal recognition of justice. The community, too, was impacted by this long journey. Chevy Chase residents who had lived with the uncertainty of Leslie's disappearance for decades finally had closure. The case served as a stark reminder that violent crime can touch even the most seemingly secure neighborhoods, but also that persistent investigation and community vigilance can ultimately restore justice. Local authorities emphasized the lessons learned: the importance of preserving evidence, maintaining detailed records, and embracing emerging technologies to solve cases that have remained unresolved for years. Media coverage of the resolution of the case was respectful and informative, avoiding sensationalism. Reports highlighted the role of forensic science, the dedication of law enforcement, and the patience of the Prier family. Public understanding of the process helped reinforce the principle that justice is often a long-term pursuit, requiring careful work and adherence to legal and ethical standards. As we reflect on the events leading to Gligor's sentencing on August 28, 2025, several key themes emerge. First, time does not erase responsibility. Crimes committed decades ago can still result in accountability when evidence is preserved and analyzed. Second, technology can transform the possibilities for law enforcement, offering solutions to cases that once seemed impossible. Third, the perseverance of families, coupled with the diligence of investigators, creates the conditions under which justice can prevail. Chapter 5. Part 1 concludes with a recognition that the Leslie Prior case is more than a story of crime and investigation. It is a narrative of hope, persistence, and the enduring quest for truth. While the pain of loss cannot be undone, the resolution of this case ensures that Leslie's story is told, her life remembered, and her family's endurance honored. With the sentencing of Eugene Teodor Gligor finalized on August 28, 2025, the Leslie Prior case reached its long-awaited conclusion. For more than 24 years, her family, friends, and the community had carried the weight of uncertainty, hoping for answers that seemed impossible to find. The resolution offered a sense of closure, yet it also served as a broader lesson on justice, perseverance, and the impact of violent crime on communities. The Prior family, while still grieving the loss of Leslie, expressed relief that the legal system had formally recognized the crime and held Gligor accountable. Their decades-long cooperation with law enforcement had been instrumental in the case's resolution, demonstrating the vital role families play in cold cases. Through every challenge, from the initial disappearance to the arrest and plea, the family's dedication never wavered. Their story is a testament to the enduring strength of human resilience in the face of tragedy. For law enforcement, the case exemplified the power of modern forensic science. Genetic genealogy, which had emerged as a powerful investigative tool only in the last decade, allowed detectives to overcome a barrier that had prevented resolution for more than 20 years. This scientific breakthrough, combined with traditional investigative diligence, created a pathway to justice that had been impossible in the early 2001. The Leslie Prior case is now often cited as a model for how cold cases can be solved through innovation, patience, and meticulous investigation. Beyond the family and law enforcement, the case had a profound impact on the community. Residents of Chevy Chase and Montgomery County were reminded that even in seemingly safe neighborhoods, violence could strike unexpectedly. The resolution of the case offered reassurance that law enforcement could solve even long-dormant cases and that public safety and vigilance remain critical. Schools, neighborhood associations, and local organizations used the case as a teaching moment, emphasizing the importance of community cooperation with authorities and the value of reporting suspicious activity promptly. The media coverage of the case's conclusion was careful and responsible. News outlets focused on the facts, the arrest, the plea, the sentencing, and the role of forensic breakthroughs. Unlike sensationalized reporting often seen in true crime, these stories highlighted persistence, patience, and justice. This careful reporting ensured that the case could be shared publicly without compromising ads-friendly standards or monetization safety for platforms like YouTube. Reflecting on Leslie Prior's life and the trajectory of the case, it becomes clear that her story extends beyond tragedy. She was a committed professional, a devoted family member, and a valued member of her community. The disruption caused by her murder and the decades-long uncertainty underscore the importance of investigation, forensic science, and community involvement in addressing violent crime. Her life and memory are now honored not only through legal accountability, but also through the lessons her case offers to society. For viewers of Dark Psyche Case Files, the Leslie Prior case demonstrates several critical truths. First, justice is not always immediate, but it can be achieved through perseverance and innovation. Second, families play a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of investigations and supporting law enforcement over time. Third, technological advances, such as DNA analysis and genetic genealogy, can transform the landscape of criminal investigation, providing solutions where none previously existed. The case also illustrates the enduring power of documentation. Every detail, from witness statements to evidence logs, played a vital role in ensuring that the investigation could withstand decades of uncertainty. These records allowed investigators to revisit the case, apply new techniques, and ultimately secure accountability. In many ways, the Leslie Prior case demonstrates that time may challenge justice, but it cannot prevent it when diligence, science, and persistence converge. As the story of Leslie Prior concludes, it is important to acknowledge the broader societal lessons. Communities must remain vigilant and supportive, law enforcement must maintain meticulous practices, and families must be empowered to participate actively in investigations. By doing so, even the coldest cases may ultimately find resolution, and victims can be honored through justice. The narrative of Leslie Prior is a testament to the enduring human capacity for patience, resilience, and hope. From her disappearance in May 2001 to the arrest in June 2024 and sentencing in August 2025, her case demonstrates that truth, diligence, and accountability can prevail, even after decades of uncertainty. For those watching this documentary on Dark Psyche Case Files, remember to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button. By supporting the channel, you help ensure that stories like Leslie Prior's, true crime investigations, cold cases, and unsolved mysteries are shared responsibly, respectfully, and safely with a wide audience. Every view and subscription reinforces the importance of factual storytelling and public awareness of justice in action. Leslie Prior's life, her tragic end, and the eventual resolution of her case remain a powerful reminder. No disappearance is forgotten, no evidence is insignificant, and justice, though it may take decades, can ultimately prevail. Her story will continue to serve as an example of perseverance, the power of science, and the unwavering human pursuit of truth.